You're ready to film, you got your camera in the right spot. How are you actually gonna put on a real performance? People are gonna carry on watch it. Well, a few things you could sort out in the edit, which we'll talk about later. But there's a couple of things you wanna make sure you're doing to keep an engaging video. One thing you might wanna do ahead of filming is have a script in place. Now, some people might script their videos word for word. I've done that. My previous course I did was like that. Other people might just have a framework of talking points that they're gonna work through and then kind of ad-lib it from there. Know that if you don't have a script, editing is going to be a lot more difficult because you're going to end up with a lot more footage and a lot more waffle to cut out. Not even having any idea of what you're going to say when you get on camera is a pretty dangerous thing, because that's where you end up having to edit or completely redo the entire shoot because you didn't get to the point, you didn't deliver everything as well as you could have done. Now, ironically, this chapter in the course is one of the ones I had to go back and re-record because there was so much content missing. And the main reason that happened was because I wasn't working off a script or an outline. I highly recommend, especially for long-form content, to have a script or at very minimum, a list of talking points. If you miss something that you think is crucial to the content, it can be a real pain in the butt to go back and film that at a later date. It can lead to some visual inconsistencies. For example, this clip that you're watching right now was filmed 2 months after Raina was in Canada. It's filmed on a different camera. I've got a different haircut. I have a different beard style, glasses. So when you go to make a long form video, I highly recommend at least having some bulleted points that you know you're going to hit on. That way you don't miss anything and have to go back and retrospectively add it later on. You can also use a teleprompter. I personally don't, because often I find what I write isn't exactly how I would say it. Stumbling over things that I've written that I wouldn't normally say and don't feel natural to say. But I know a lot of people who use teleprompter apps. I'll put a few up here that can be really helpful when you're filming long pieces of content, you know, plus 5 minutes. One thing you can do to make your videos more engaging without having to do any editing whatsoever is just change location between different shots in your video. One of the best performing videos I made at Lavender was so successful because I had like 8 different shoot locations. And for that, what I did was I made a script. I highlighted each of the different lines in the script based on the location I wanted to film them at. And then I went to the location and I read each line from that script at that location with the same tonality and then cut them all together. So there was constantly something changing on the screen. One thing that massively increases the ability to do cool videos is having a tripod. So right now I'm out in the forest, in the park, and it's a little bit different from what you normally see of B2B content, someone sat at their desk doing a talking head video. So I highly recommend getting a tripod. That way you can go to different locations to make your videos more engaging. While you're filming, if you know how you're gonna edit the video together, maybe you're working off a script, you can do some fun things like worked in transitions and how you've done the shot. And now I'm here. Isn't that crazy? There's the walking, talking style as well, which is especially good when you want to multitask. I take my dog for a walk every day. It's a great opportunity to shoot some videos, especially on my mobile phone. Works better for short form, but it can be engaging for long form as well. When you're filming outside or in a different environment, always be conscious of your lighting, like Raina said before. Right now, because that lake's reflecting a bunch of light and there's loads of sky behind me and there's a tree in front of me, I'm darker than my background. This is really hard to fix in post, so always try and make sure you're well lit. Watch this. All I did was turn the camera around. Although this background's not quite as nice as this beautiful lake, I actually become the focus of the video versus being too dark and backlit by my background. If you're planning to include B-roll in your video, I highly recommend getting as much as possible. It's always nice to have more that you can overlay onto your video to make it more engaging than not enough. Use your phone, film as much side content as you can, because it makes it way more engaging. Figure out your style of communication. I'm someone who talks pretty darn fast, which works really well for short form platforms like TikTok and YouTube, because you can pack a ton of information into a short video. But there are some people who do the opposite. Someone who's made this work for them is mine and Raina's ex-colleague, Todd Clauser. He talks really slowly in his videos, and that helps emphasize his points in some ways. You take him a little bit more seriously. Regardless, if you want to make a good video, you want to make sure you're switching up your volume, your tempo throughout to emphasize the key points. Although editing helps, if the person presenting to camera isn't interesting themselves in the way that they talk and engaging to listen to, it's going to be hard to make a good video from that. That's part of the reason why I don't use scripts, because I just find myself a little bit more, I get a little bit like, when I'm just winging it. That said, I've been doing this for a long time, and a lot of the things I'm talking about, I know pretty well. It's all coming from up here. If you're talking about a topic that you're not so familiar with, definitely use a script. Come on, like that's script 101, baby. I'm a big body language guy. My hands are always moving. It's my fidgety nature. That's something you can do if it's your style to make your videos slightly more engaging. But not everyone is a hand talker. So if you're not, don't try and force it, because it's just gonna be awkward. One thing I'd always try and make sure you're doing is keeping eye contact with that lens, baby. That's why I like the Sony ZV-E10, because it's got a flip out screen, which allows me to look at myself, you know what I mean? Right now, I'm looking at the lens. Right now, I'm looking at the screen. Lens, screen, lens, screen. They're close enough that it's not super noticeable. If I step further away, even less noticeable. And it allows me to adjust my positioning, make sure I look good on camera while I'm doing the recording, because again, such a pain in the dick to re-record if your footage is crappy. I'm also really good looking. Hey, handsome. damn, got the sporty red there, you know, that's how you know I'm a cool dad. That's how you know I'm a cool dad. Beauty of recording content and being able to edit it afterwards is that you can do multiple takes of the same line. So you can keep saying the same line. If you scuff it up or you feel like you could have delivered it better, you can just repeat that line over and over again until you feel like you got the best shot possible. I feel bad for how many hours Raina's had to watch me repeat the same line because I just wanted to get the delivery a little bit better, or I lost my train of thought halfway through the sentence. Keep re-recording the same line until you nail it, and then you can move on to the next thing you want to say. One-take videos are a challenge because you're gonna have filler words and your train of thought is gonna move around. It's great for webinars and podcasts and that type of thing, or an actual produced video or something that you want to put on social media. One take is risky, and oftentimes if I try and do a video in one take, I find myself spending more time re-recording the whole video over and over again than I would if I just did it line by line and then cut all the lines together at the end. Don't mind me there. This video you're currently watching is actually from mine and Raina's content video creation playbook. It's a course that we made to teach you how to come up with great ideas for videos, shoot really high quality and engaging videos, understand all the equipment and different camera settings you have to learn to create video content, and of course how to edit in all the main video editing softwares like DaVinci Resolve, Adobe Premiere, Final Cut Pro, and CapCut. Check it out, there's a link in the description. Enjoy the rest of the video. I'd also make sure that if you're recording yourself, reserve times to record when you've got good energy. There's nothing worse than me filming a whole video, looking back and be like, damn, I don't sound excited, I don't sound energetic. So I like to try and schedule my recordings for days and times of the day where I know I've got good energy and I'm gonna be able to show up amazingly on camera. That's right now if you haven't noticed. Now we're gonna go back to Will from 2 months ago. So what you'll probably find is, the next time you see my face when we cut to the next shot, you'll find that my energy is very different to the one I've got right now. Somebody once told me the world. See, it's like Shrek. So that's also something to keep in mind when you're recording a long video, to try and maintain energy, tone throughout, so it's not so jarring. Watch this, you can tell me and Raina are tired by the time we shot this last bit. A lot of people feel really uncomfortable when they start filming videos, being in front of camera, presenting to camera. The most important thing you can do is practice a ton. It's not gonna feel natural, it's gonna be horrible watching the footage back, but once you've done it enough, that discomfort goes away. Ultimately, you can make videos that never see the light of day and just do it for practice sake, and that will only mean your next video gets better and better. I'll show you one of my first ever videos I posted online.
When you're asking questions during discovery or during a demo, you need to avoid the word why. Whilst a why question seems like a great question to uncover and dig deeper and probe, it often puts people up against a wall.
It's bloody awful. It's cringy, it's uncomfortable. Over time, you can literally see me start to get better and better at delivering and really finding what's working and what's not.
Part 2 of how to nail a sales position interview. So you've done your preparation, I explained that in part 1. Now it's time to show up and use the information that you learned during your research to wow this hiring manager. One of the biggest challenges in sales is that the buyer and the seller want inherently very different things. The buyer wants the best product for the lowest price. The salesperson wants to sell their product for the highest price. This right here, your entire sales cycle is going to be determined by what you do or don't do in discovery. Closing is a myth. This isn't a priority. This is too expensive. We want to push this off till next year. When a salesperson and a customer are talking, the person who's asking the questions is the one who's in control of the conversation. If you're doing most of the talking, you're probably losing. Should you leave a company that you love for more money? Well, it depends. How much money are we talking about? Because to me, a $5,000 raise isn't enough to justify the risk that there's going to be more bullshit at the new job. 3.6 billion people check their emails every single day. There has never been such an accessible way to reach your potential customer. I spent hundreds of dollars paying 8 strangers on Fiverr to write the same cold email for me. And they all kind of sucked. Here are the mistakes they all made. They were all way too long. The shortest email was 150 words, but data says the best performing cold emails are under 75 words. Please, 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 can we stop writing this in our emails? I hope this finds you well.
So it really does come down to practice, review your game tape, look at what you could have done better, and then refine on that next time. Watch big creators, see what they do, and try and emulate that when you're presenting to camera. Jesus Christ and shit, he just shot a musket.
He did not. I was not ready for that.
He just shot a musket.